Good morning. Happy Monday. Hope everybody's doing well. 8:30 here on the East Coast. Going to do a little Monday with Pop this morning. Talking a little bit about narrative today. I want to make sure we dive into that. It's an important concept and one that I'm seeing kind of come around, and one that I want to make sure that I'm addressing a little bit. So I'll let a few folks roll in. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Allie, Taylor, Jordan. Good to see you guys. Hope you had a good weekend. And I know there's a ton going on with Ice Physio, so maybe a good time to throw some announcements out there. I see some banter going back and forth on the trip to Vegas. That's cool. It's cool to see some people kind of gearing up and looking at their calendars. I'm excited to do that. I think it's going to be a pretty cool trip. I know for me, it's going to be one of those kind of buzz in and buzz out kind of things. Is what it's looking like, just because of the time of the year. But it's going to be awesome. And if it's anything like Portland was last year, it's going to be pretty awesome. Other things going on this week. I have a conversation with Jeff and Chris Johnson, who's out from that way, out kind of on the West Coast, about some other things that we'll be talking about soon on the APHPT front, which is super cool. Look forward to that. And of course, there's a whole list of courses that are ongoing. I know, I think I saw Dunaway was sold out in North Carolina, and I know Mitch and Ryan were doing some fitness athlete work. I saw some posts on that. I think out at Recharge this past weekend. So a lot going on, but without sort of delaying and belaboring, let me start the clock and get rolling here. All right, and so this morning, what I wanted to just cover a little bit about was narrative. And the reason why I wanted to cover that is because I think it's absolutely critical going forward, right? As a professional, and maybe as a member of a profession, and maybe even within the greater context, as just a person in the community and a person sort of out there, with some level of knowledge. It's understanding what is your narrative and really being able to launch it forward. And what I mean by that is what are those simple truths? What are those 4 or 5 or, maybe as many as 10, but I would think probably not, things that you absolutely are willing to die for, that you are willing to go to the mat over, fight to the death, the old like Will Smith kind of, if 2 of us get on a treadmill, one of us is getting off, one of us is going to die because I'm not going to quit until it's over, that kind of a mentality. What are those 3 or 4 things that in, professionally and in life that you are willing to absolutely slug it out for, and there's no changing that. And to me, that's where almost everything is built, because that's the only way that when in the heat of it, in the thick of it, that you are willing to continue to push forward and grind and continue to find the avenues that you can take what you believe in and influence the world. And so, I've spent some time really thinking about this lately, and some of it has to do with the folks in, this cohort of the course. This group that we've got right now in the Certified APHPT course is doing a nice job. They're really having some good conversations, and they really are interacting well. So I think they're going to be a nice group of friends anyway going out into the future. But they're really at the point now in the course where they're wrestling with this narrative. Like, what exactly do we have to offer, and how exactly can we phrase it in a way that is compelling? And I think that's something that we should all be translating into practice. Whether you are, a population health person, whether you're health-facing practice, that's your focus, or whether you're just doing traditional sort of, reactive rehab. I mean, it's still critical, because every interaction that we have with someone is a chance for us to influence their thinking. And if there's anything that right now the real inroads on neuroscience have showed us is that influencing thinking is what's going to influence behaviors, which is going to ultimately influence outcomes, right? So no matter how you want to go after that, whether you want to talk about expectations or whether you want to talk about, kind of like, what a person's belief systems are, like whatever that is, it's what's in their head that matters the most. And so if you don't have a narrative that can work, that can really put A to B to C to D, you are missing a phenomenal opportunity to really influence that person on the grander scale, influence their health overall. And so I guess my question is what is that narrative? So, I look at myself that way, and I've tried to really kind of do some analysis of what that is. And this weekend for me was a really good opportunity to see that. So I'll give you a little bit of a story. This weekend I was lucky enough to be attending a Hall of Fame ceremony for my high school, of all things. So one of the teams that I was on back in the day, 25 years ago, the wrestling team won the state championships, and I was a member of that team. And so we were being honored as a team. But what does that do? That brings you back to a whole bunch of people you haven't seen in a while, and life has gotten busy, and none of us keep in touch with each other. At least not me, just because I'm horrible at that anyway. But we haven't really kept in touch. And then you immediately are going to get the interaction where you haven't seen somebody in a while, and it is your moment where they're asking you. So what do you do? Right? Like what is it that you do? Like, who are you? Like, what are you about? It's been 25 years. And to me, to watch the interplay of that and to see some people who are so clear on what they did, why they existed, and what was going on, and other people who really had a hard time putting it into words, was a classic example of someone who owns their narrative and has an incredible focus in their life on whatever it is they're trying to achieve, and others who are really searching. I know there was a lot of the same, gobbledygook about, like, hey, I have this many kids and I live over here, and there's some geography stuff, and that's just kind of small talk. But when you got past the initial conversation, it was immediately, this is what I care about in life. And you could pretty quickly pull that out of almost anybody. Now, what was really cool is that there were also individuals being honored, right? And I wasn't one of them. I was one member of a team, but there were individuals who were being honored for their individual accomplishments. And to watch the differences as they got up and kind of gave their little acceptance speech on getting this award was wild. You had some people who really quickly, within minutes, I would say 2 to 3 minutes, they were able to quickly bring that entire room's attention to what had gone on in their life. Like what was the rest of the story after they had their big accomplishment. And then you had others who were searching and ranging and just covering all sorts of stuff, and you could see the tenor of the room. Now, if we take that as an example and think about the fact that we're trying to sway populations, the skill required to do that is absolutely critical. The skill to be able to say, I can take within minutes a room of people who have all sorts of disparate, thoughts and beliefs, and quickly hone them in on a message and get them thinking about how that message applies to their life, and then slowly direct them toward where we want them to go. That is an absolutely critical skill if we're going to move the needle on health in our communities, in our families, in populations, like whatever, even honestly at the individual level. If you're going to get someone to actually change their day-to-day behavior, you're going to have to get them to change their beliefs. And the only way they're going to change their beliefs is to open their mind to some other potential, some other possible set of beliefs. And that comes down to you. So do you know your narrative? So for example, if I look at my narrative, I think my narrative is pretty simple. And I think, honestly, the health narrative is really pretty simple. And it goes something like this. We have a massive problem. It's complex. It's all over the map. There's just thousands of details that no one could possibly understand all of the details and all of the custom presentations of this problem. However, we know that it's not an insoluble problem. It can be solved. There are people doing it. There are people succeeding. There are people who live long, healthy, high-quality lives in the midst of the chaos that seems to be health and healthcare in America. And we can help you get there. Right? So it's there's a black cloud, okay? That black cloud has a silver lining. That silver lining has evidence. That evidence does work, and we can help you get that working for you as well. Like, to me, those are messages that I am willing to fight to the death over, right? That I am willing to go to the mat when someone says, no, there's no evidence for this. Really? Let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. Let's look at the thousands of studies that show lifestyle impacts health. That every single time we turn around, and I forget who posted it on our workplace at APHPT, but the recent BJSM review between medication and exercise. It might actually, I saw Brandon log on. It might have been Brandon. I can't remember. Okay, but that's a great example of just so much evidence that says this stuff works. And it can work well for you too, right? So there's a message of hope in there, okay? That it is work. That's part of the narrative. That this doesn't come easy. That it's not the flip of a switch, that you don't just get to say, well, today I'm going to change my lifestyle, so, lifestyle change. No, it doesn't work like that. It takes a long time and a lot of effort and practice, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have setbacks, and if it was easy, it would already be done. Everyone would already do it. So that's another piece of the narrative. Can we own that in the marketplace? Can we own the idea that, hey, this is hard. It's inherently difficult. It's going to take effort, okay? That doesn't mean that it can't be done. It just means that it's going to take sustained effort, that you have to learn the skills of sustaining your effort, also known as endure. Okay? So that becomes a really important point. Then we have to look at that and say, okay, what other messages are in there? That it's complex, that there's lots of different things, right? I saw some great stuff going on with Twitter this weekend, and somebody had tagged me in something. It was kind of cool to see, whereas people are starting to realize the complexity of this and talk about it. That doesn't make it, insoluble. It doesn't mean we can't solve it. It just means that that it's complex, and we have to give it the respect that it deserves. That it's complex. Okay. So all of those are a piece of the narrative. So the question I would then have, and I would ask us to reflect on and look in the mirror a little bit, is what are the pieces of your narrative? What are the things that you can work into any conversation with any patient, with any family, with any large group, with any population? If someone was to give you a keynote microphone, if you were in a room and there's 1,000 people there, and they said, here's the microphone, you have 5 minutes. These are the most influential people you're going to meet today. You have 5 minutes. What is it that you want them to believe by the time you walk off the stage? Do you have that at the ready? Do you have that at the tip of your tongue, at your fingertips, that you can immediately say, well, that's so great because I've just been waiting for this opportunity? And I guess what I would suggest is that we all need that. Now, one step further on that is not just disparate individual narratives. And I think that's where we run the risk of creating more chaos and creating more problems. Is that as professionals, as people on this feed right now today, or as people who have attended ICE courses, or as people who are interested in APHPT, or as people who are interested in health overall, we just kind of keep broadening that circle. But overall, what do we all collectively believe? Even if we don't all believe exactly the same as each other, right? So there are definitely things that within the PT community that I disagree with, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily am going to say, well, I disagree with everything because I disagree with something. What are the commonalities? What are the common threads? And what can we all stand on every single time? So, for example, can we all stand on the fact that lifestyle is one of the most powerful interventions that we have to influence health? And if we can't stand on that, can we back it off and say, well, exercise, at least? Can we back it off and say, yes, everybody needs to be strong, and everyone needs to be stable, and everyone needs to be cardiovascularly fit? Like, all three of those things matter. That we're not willing to duke it out and say which one's more important, like aerobic fitness over strength. Oh, no, stability and balance, like whatever. You need all of them. Are we okay saying that? Great. Let's build on that. Like, that's a foundation we can build on. Are we all willing to say that eating crappy foods in general is bad for you? Like, can we just say that? If we can all agree on that, that's a narrative we can all get behind. Now, we can talk about why one, little methodology might be better than another methodology. Okay, fine. Like, that's we can do together, and we can debate that, and that's how we all learn and develop and grow. But is our narrative that high quality foods and not too much are incredibly vital to the future health of our nation? If we believe that, if we can dive into that and believe that to our soul, then no matter what the situation is, we're going to say, no, I'm sorry, that's something I cannot compromise on. No matter what you say, no matter what happens in this conversation, I will not compromise on the fact that food and what you put in your face every day is going to have an impact on your health. Okay? Do we believe that stress and fatigue has a role to play in health? Do we think people who are just tuned up completely, just running their systems ragged and raw, who I would call like sympathetic overdrive dominant, like that is going to have a negative impact on health at some point? If we believe that, if we're willing to go to the mat for that, then we're willing to say, no, I'm not willing to compromise there. Like, I will not tell you that you can just push your body to the point of total destruction and breakdown. You are going to need rest. You are going to need sleep at some point. It is critical to your health. Do we have enough evidence to say that? Now, if you want to dial into, well, does everybody have to have 7.5 hours, or is 6 enough for some people? Or, do you have to have no blue light, or is like the phone off? We can dive into all of that. Fine. But can we all agree on the fact that, yes, at its root, there is a balance here. You can only push this thing so hard before you need to recover and rest. If we can, we've got a narrative. Now, of course, APHPT, I'm excited that they've adopted some of Proactivity's language and Move, Fuel, Recover, Endure, Connect. Those are terms that we've used over the years. And they tend to make sense. And the reason why we've picked them is because we spent a ton of time having this conversation, right? Internally with my team at Proactivity, we've slugged it out for years to say, hey, what are we willing to go to the mat for? What can we defend to the death over? And I think that that's really what we as professionals have to be willing to do. And so all of the other stuff, all the other bells and whistles and all of the other little, nuances and the cherry on top, all of that stuff matters, but it's not foundational. And so what I would challenge us to think about is what is foundational? What is foundational knowledge that we have to have complete and total command over? Like, can we all, within seconds out of our memory, pull out and say, yeah, there's at least 3 studies that have shown exercise beats medication. I can get those for you tomorrow if you're interested. Like, yeah, we can talk about it all you want, and we can talk about the fact that you've got a genetic predisposition to heart disease, but I can also show you very quickly tons of studies that have shown that those things don't have to manifest, that it doesn't have to happen. Right? Can we do that? If we can't, we need to go back to our narrative, and then we need to support that narrative. And that's absolutely key. So Taylor, I see your comment here. Behavior change before the tipping point. Best strategies you found to swing people who may be resistant to changing their comfortable lifestyle. Okay, so it's a good question. I've only got less than a minute to cover it. So maybe we should dive into this next time, but let me give you sort of the high level. I think there's a couple of them. One, I think people see conviction, and that helps change beliefs, right? So we know that the tipping point of behavior change for most people is someone else who has an even stronger opinion. There's plenty of research that shows if you go toe-to-toe with someone and the one person is willing to argue it out, be an unshakable believer, the other person will likely change their opinion, even if that opinion is wrong. And that's a little scary. We have to be careful with that. But what I would tell you is that's why the narrative is so critical. Because even though we can agree that we may not come to terms with this today, when we come back and talk again as colleagues or friends or patient-client interaction or family member, my opinion is not going to change. Well, there's my time. I'll take 30 more seconds, right? That's the fight to the death thing. That's I'm not going to change. This is not going to change ever. Ever. Like when I see that color over there, that is blue. No matter what you tell me, that is blue. Okay, 1 + 1 = 2. No matter what you tell me, it's 2. And I will fight you to the death over that, right? But if a person comes back and says, no, let me show you all, think about Einstein and the theory of relativity, right? No, actually, no. I know time seems like an absolute, but it's not. And he can show that and he can go after it. No, what happens? The entire shift in mentality, people go, oh my gosh, this guy might be right? That time may actually be relative. Okay, that's what starts to get people changing and believing. And all of a sudden now complex system theory pops out of those kinds of thoughts. So I don't know if I'm making sense of that, Taylor, and we can dive into it. Taylor's one of our superstars asking good questions in our cohort currently. Okay, but that is critical to understand, that conviction, that controlling your narrative and understanding your narrative and never swaying on whatever it is our base roots may be the thing that tips the population. Okay, I'm like a minute over, so let me just go. I could talk about this all day. I do have a pretty busy morning. As always, anybody who has questions, please reach out. Let's have some dialogue. If you have some questions you want me to jump into, I won't be doing the Pop Health Monday every Monday, but I am going to be putting some time into it. So if you have questions as we go. All right, it is Monday. It is just the start of the week. We have days ahead of us to do amazing things. So please make it count. Have a great rest of the week.